Hello, everyone. First and foremost, today I want to thank everyone who has watched and listened to the show throughout the year this year. I think I've done somewhere around 25 episodes now, and I have learned a lot, not only in the conversations that I've been having with interesting people for the show, but also about the logistics of doing a podcast, what it takes to record them, to edit them, promote them, all of that good stuff. But unfortunately, today I am coming to you to announce that I am putting the show on hiatus. One of the reasons for that you can see behind me and around me here, which is that I am recording today in the same room that I've been recording in almost the entire time I have been doing the show this year. You may recall that at the beginning of the most recent episode, I mentioned that I was taking a couple weeks off from the podcast so my family and myself could move into a home that we were purchasing. And I was really excited about that because the internet here in this current setup is pretty marginal, which you have probably noticed in some of the previous recordings. And so just the prospect of having, a better environment that's better lit with a better backdrop that wouldn't get panned by Room Raider was pretty exciting. Well, it turned out that the builder we were working with on that home was not able to meet deadlines for closing, finishing up some of the work that they had to do to get the house ready for us to move into. So that was already a red flag. And then last week, we found out that the builder had not been completely forthcoming with us about some issues they have been having with the city in terms of permitting, which are necessary in the first place for us to even be able to move in. So my wife and myself put our heads together over the weekend, and we made the difficult call to cancel the purchase agreement and pretty much start over at square one with the housing search. So that's been quite stressful. But even beyond that, this summer I've been feeling really spread thin, working on the newsletter, but also writing for Post News, having two young kids at home. My father passing in June was tough, and there's been a range of personal trials and tribulations since then, which have just made it difficult to do everything that I've wanted to do, both as it pertains to the newsletter, but then also doing this podcast and some other side projects as well. So I've decided as we enter the fall that for my own mental health, I'm going to try and simplify things a little bit and really focus on the newsletter and on social media, which I've always used to kind of grow an audience that, hopefully turns into newsletter subscribers eventually. I want to cover a lot of these House hearings coming up, both with regard to impeachment. I want to cover the shenanigans surrounding a possible government shutdown and stories of that sort. And I just want to make sure that I have the time and the energy to do that. And doing this podcast is a lot of work. It's not just recording them. It's also booking guests for them every week. It's prepping for interviews. And so I think for my own mental health, it's just the right thing to do for now to take a step back and to put the podcast on pause. So we'll see what happens in the future, especially if I can move into a better situation recording-wise. The producer I've been working with is very open to resuming the show before too long, so stay tuned for that. And if you are a subscriber to my newsletter, Public Notice, I have lots of good stuff in the pipeline, not only in terms of content for the newsletter, but some new features that are going to be interactive, some member threads and things like that I think will make it so, for most of you, you might not even notice that the podcast is gone, but I know that there were a lot of subscribers who really enjoyed it. And so I apologize to those of you who will miss the show. I will miss it as well. But, one of the nice things with being an independent journalist and self-employed is that you get to kind of follow your passion projects. And so I've really enjoyed doing the show, and I could definitely see scenarios in the short to medium term future where I will get this back off the ground once again. But for now, this is Aaron Rupar signing off. I want to take one final opportunity to thank people for watching and listening. And I just want to remind you, if you are a person who has pretty much tapped into my work through my YouTube page or through the podcast feed, that if you like the interviews I've been doing here, some of the commentary I offered during these podcasts, you will probably like my newsletter, Public Notice, which you can find at publicnotice.co. And I'll also say here at the end that I plan to, with some of the bookings I already have for the podcast, to still do those interviews and to do them in Q&A format for the newsletter as a written product. And so look for those in my newsletter as well. But for now, this is Aaron Rupar signing off.